Hello everyone and welcome to a tutorial on ExpressJS and more specifically middleware in ExpressJS. So in this tutorial we'll be covering how to adapt the basic Hello World example from ExpressJS to into writing your own middleware, and you'll actually write your own application level middleware, and you'll actually write your own route specific level middleware. First things first, we're going to create the Node.js project in your package manager of choice. So for me, I'm using Yarn. So I'm just going to yarn it. It's going to be the same process with npm. And then, so name, version, description, you don't have to put anything. That doesn't really matter for now. If you want to put this on a GitHub, you can put in your repository URL. I'm just going to put in my name as the author. MIT license is fine. And then we're also going to need to add in our first dependency, which will be Express. So we're going to yarn add Express. It will be npm install Express if you are using npm. So now we just add it into our node modules, and then we're going to open up our editor of choice. For me, it's Visual Studio Code. You are free to use whichever one you want. And then we're just going to create our file, and we're just going to copy over the basic Express application from their website. We're going to save it, and then we're going to go here and we're just going to run it to make sure it works. And example app listening on port 3000. So now we're going to go to our browser, and that's going to be localhost 3000. And boom, there you go. It works. So once we get this up and running, the next thing we're actually going to do is to configure some more routes in our application. So I'm just going to copy the Hello World routes from earlier, and then we're just going to create an A route and a B route, and then it's going to be Hello A route and Hello B route. And then let's just verify this is working. If you want the node to automatically reload, like on detect a file change, instead of having to restart the server each time, you can use something called Nodemon. We're not using it in this example, but it's a useful tool that you can use when developing Node.js applications. Okay, now we're actually going to start writing the middleware. And the way you're going to do that is you're going to make a function, and then let's just name it my middleware. It needs a request parameter, a response parameter, and then the next handler in the stack as a parameter. And what this middleware is going to do is simply log to our console what type of request this is. So what method, what HTTP method that will be. So is it a get, is it a post, is it a put? And the way we're going to access that is we're just going to use the method parameter in the request object passed to us. So we're just going to rec.method. And then another important thing to cover when writing middleware is in order to call the next handler in the stack, you need to call this next function. And one of the advantages of middleware is you can select whether or not you're going to call this. So for example, if you had authentication middleware, you'd only want to call the handler to the protected route if they were authenticated. So what you could do is you could deny them access to that route and then send them an error message instead, all by using this next handler. But now to use this middleware in our root URI, we're just going to call it right here. And then let's reload and then verify that's working. So here I just called the root, and then it says get since it's a get request. And then if I go to A, it didn't call it, and if I go to B, It shouldn't have called it. There you go, it did not. Um, we can extend this to A. So it would just be calling on the root and A if we wanted to. Or we could do all three. But a better way of doing all three is if you have an application level or a router specific middleware. So if you have your routes for like your API and something configured into a router, you could send all your requests through that by using um, this function I'm about to show you, which is app.use. If you had your router, it would be the name of your router.use, and then you're just going to use my middleware. So now all these routes are going to be using my middleware. And we can just verify that that's working here. So it's going to go B, and then A, and then the root, and it should have come up 3 times. So there you see how to write a basic middleware in ExpressJS. So now that you got your middleware written, that's great. But maybe you're looking to see like a more like advanced example of a middleware. Um, One of the middlewares I actually wrote was basically it's pretty simple. All it does is it parses the body out. So this is just using Express's body parser. So that's a middleware in its own right, and I'm calling it on my post and my put request. And then also another thing I'm using is this check body middleware, and that will essentially ensure that the post or the put request has the proper fields in the request, else it's going to send a generic error saying, hey, this is a client error. You don't have these fields presented. It's actually available on NPM under Express Param Check. It's very basic. I just wrote it in, a few minutes. So it is what it is. So there you have it. That's how you can write middleware in ExpressJS. Um, a lot of the packages you guys are using are going to be middleware, such as the Express body parser I showed you earlier. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked it, feel free to subscribe. Feel free to comment. Any questions or suggestions, I'll proudly take.